I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps me keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This is part 2 of my interview with veteran actor Glenn Morshower. If you didn't catch part 1, stop now, go back and listen to it. Some good stories and some really great advice. In this episode, we hear more stories from Glenn, including what he loves about teaching, and he shares a touching story about Martin Sheen. Plus, he tells a really funny story about him swimming with the fishes. So enjoy, folks. This is part 2 of my interview with star of stage and screen, Glenn Morshower.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
So you've been teaching for, I think you said 34 years?
Yep, that's correct.
And you told a story of how you got started, but I want you to tell me why you keep doing it. I know that you were sort of led that way by your agent, but what about it keeps you doing it for 34 years?
Because it's soul rewarding. That's why. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. I spend a tremendous amount of time doing it. I teach 3 classes a week here in Dallas and 2 classes a week in Los Angeles. So on Thursday mornings, today's Wednesday, it's my day off. Thursday morning, I get on a plane every week and fly to LA, and I teach there Thursday night and Friday night. And then I come back to Dallas on Saturday or Sunday and sign up and do it all over again the following Monday. And then I have teachers in both schools that run it for me when I'm away shooting the series I do on Fox called The Resident. So, I live about 9 people's lives all at once, but the greatest reward is in teaching, because anytime we help anybody in life, we're uplifted by it. And I've been making movies in fact, I'm about a week away from my 44th anniversary. I started the 3rd week of April, 1975, and I'm doing the math on that. And yeah, that's right. It's 44 years. I know a lot. That doesn't make me special. It just means that I've paid attention. I've been doing it a long time. By God, I should know a lot. And the people that are into it, that want to do it as a lifestyle, I just want to make sure that their choice to do it is an informed choice. And I find that most people are not informed. They just simply do it because they dream of it. And I want to make sure they're shown the truth sort of live from the battlefield, the way it really is, instead of somebody teaching what they theorize is so. I don't theorize. I know it's so. I've been at it a long time. So then I can help them get clear on several things. And from that well-informed place, they can make a better decision. And then also, if they decide to do it, which most of them do go ahead and do it, they will have a clearer picture of what's involved in order to do it successfully. And that's not luck, and it's not an accident. And I just love being a part of people's process. At 60, it's such a youth-dominated industry, most especially television. But films, too, there are fewer and fewer roles as you get older, and TV has an obsession with youth. TV is mostly 20s and 30s with some people in their 40s. And then occasionally they'll cast someone in their 50s or 60s or even 70s, and every so often an actor works on into their 80s. But the numbers are always diminishing, and most of my students are around that age 30 average. And I want to help them know what I've learned over the years so that they can do a better job of it, and their chances of being successful at it are greatly improved. That brings me a tremendous sense of reward.
Well, I would like to say that for those listening, the reason that this interview actually came about was through one of your students.
You're talking about Stephanie?
Yes. Stephanie Carter, my sister, she has... From the moment that she signed up for your class, she has done nothing but extol your greatness and your amazing teaching abilities, and the things that she's learning, she's very, very excited about. So I know that your students also get a lot out of what you're doing. So thank you for that. And can you tell people where they could go? Maybe hopefully there's a website or something where people can go to find out more information about those classes.
Actually, we intentionally do not have a website. We're rare that way. And the reason is I'm so old school. I believe in relationship capital. I believe in the power of good word of mouth. And so the only people who get to my workshop are people who were recommended by people who have taken the workshop. And word of mouth is powerful. So we've never needed to advertise. But I will tell you this, I will happily give your listeners an email address. And that address is Budipity, which is Budipity. I want to spell it one more time. B as in boy, U, D as in dog, Pity at AOL.com for more information. Our classes meet on Mondays in the daytime from 11:30 until 5. And then on Tuesdays, we meet again from 11:30 till 5. And I have a second class that comes in at 6:30 and meets till midnight. So I teach about 13 hours on Tuesdays. And then my classes in LA are both night classes from 6:30 to midnight on Thursday and Friday night. But here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we are at 3310 Keller Springs Road, and it's Suite 150. That's the address of the place. It's called the Actors Playground. And those are the hours we meet. And everyone is invited to come by for a free audit, and they can see what it is we do there. I've had non-actors that come to train with me because they are salespeople. They're in some kind of profession where they want to enhance their sense of self and of power, clarity, so they come and train. A lot of salespeople have trained with me over the years. But it is mostly actors, and we love Stephanie. I personally adore her. She came in with so much light around her in her very first outing, and I thought, well, there's a person who's at home. And I knew she was swimming in her own waters. It was abundantly clear. So, yeah, I'm a big Stephanie fan.
Oh, well, how sweet are you?
Well, your sister was obviously raised well. You know, she comes from good stock. I assume that you were as well.
This episode is not about me and Stephanie.
You can always cut that, but at least you know that that's how I feel about your sister. Whether you air it in the podcast, I don't care, but I do adore her.
Well, thank you for that. She's pretty special. I adore her as well. Tell me about the Extra Mile program. Is that the name of that class, or is that the name of the talk?
Well, it's actually both. All of my talks are under the Extra Mile heading, and the Extra Mile simply means is that we inhabit moments to their fullest capacity. That's what it means to be an extra miler. For me, I've chosen to be an actor, so I teach others how to inhabit moments to their fullest capacity. That does not mean better than their neighbor who's inhabiting the same moment, because that would breed competition. And my only okayness with competition is when we compete with our own potentiality. That's it. I do not believe in competing with others. I just don't believe it. I don't think it's about being better than, stronger than, faster than. It's unimportant. I think that's important for people who have low self-esteem, and the only way they can get their jollies is if they feel they're better than someone else. People who are healthy don't need to feel better than other people. People who are healthy want to claim the fullness of their own potentiality. So they're always competing with what they're capable of being. My goal with my students, I don't want you to be better than anyone else in class. I want you to be better than who you were last week. That's all. With this ever spiraling trend of moving upward. That's that deal. But yeah, my talks for corporate America are always called the Extra Mile, and the acting workshop is called the Extra Mile Acting Workshop. And the reason it's under that same heading is my sort of expression for the class is that we are a wellness center disguised as an acting class, because we don't walk right in and start doing scenes. We spend the first 2 hours of every class not doing scenes. The first 2 hours go like this. We do the first hour, which is all improv games and warm-ups. And any newcomers, we welcome them. We get to know everybody's name. And we play a lot of sharpening your mind games and being quick on your feet. Those pun games, like I mentioned, 165, those show up. And then we take a short break of about 5 minutes. And when we come back, we then share good news, which is everybody in the room talking about what's good in their life. Notice I didn't say good career news. It can be career news, but it doesn't have to be. Just what do you esteem that's good that's going on in your life this week? What have you done? And it can be someone who's made a decision to stop thinking in a habitual way that's not serving their life. It could be someone that's ending a relationship, someone that's decided to stop smoking, someone that's decided that they're overweight and they want their body to be a temple and not a trash can, right? It's a trophy. We earned it by outswimming 500 million sperm. That's the exact count, by the way. There were 500 million candidates vying for life that day, and you won. And so I teach people that their bodies are a trophy. It's the trophy you were given the day of your arrival. Welcome to planet Earth. Congratulations on your most impressive swim. By the way, you outswam 500 million others. Welcome to the planet. And in order to commemorate that big, impressive gold medalist-like swim, here's your trophy. Only on Earth, we call it a body. But here's a thought. You might want to take care of it, because you only get one. Anything you only get one of, you damn well better take care of. It's kind of the rules. Imagine if you were given a car when you were 16 and told one thing before I hand you these keys. Yes, it's a gift. Yes, it's brand new, but you need to know something. You will never be able to sell it, and you will never be able to replace it. You're getting one car. I got to tell you, you would be very mindful of the upkeep of that car. Very mindful. I don't know why people don't get that about their own bodies. So all in good news, we share these things. And somebody got a good news. They got cast in a commercial. Somebody's doing a play. They're thrilled about it. Somebody just booked their first movie. All of those are great. And we do that for probably 30 minutes. And then I offer a 15 to 20 minute power talk, kind of like what we're doing here on the phone now. And I have a talk, I guess a word for it would even be a form of a sermon, as in a topic that I've chosen for that week that I feel is important for people to hear. And then, and only then, we launch into the scene work. So we've had 2 hours of wellness training every week before we start doing our scenes. And in the class, you have a scene partner that you were assigned that week, 5 days before class. We do not give you the material. We only tell you who you're going to be working with. And those actors get together with each other, either physically or on the phone, make a decision about what scene they want to do, which is from a movie, a TV show, a play, or in some instances, the actors love to write their own material, which I applaud. I think it's fantastic. But they go to do a scene and they work on it for several days, and then they put that scene up in front of the entire class. And I do not interrupt at all. We sit quietly and watch it. And then following that scene, which runs about 4 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, when they're done, I give them notes, what worked, what didn't, and why, and ways to improve it. And then we move to the second round, which is now they do the same scene all over again, but it's the implementation round. So now they factor those notes that they were just given into it, and invariably, not so surprisingly, the second scene is always better than the first, because they're learning what makes a scene better, what makes it pop, what enhances it, what makes it more penetrating, more impactful. And that's how they grow. And when you walk away from someone, if you've watched them for a couple of weeks and then you walk away from the class and you come back and visit it 6 months later, you're not even looking at the same human being anymore. It is absolutely transformation central. And I love it. I love growing spinal columns for these people's souls. I love watching them organically grow their own spine and grow their humanity by growing their talent and growing their compassion. I'm doing exactly what I expect to be doing for the rest of my life.
So you plan on burning the candle at both ends like you are right now for the rest of your life?
That would be correct.
Wow, that's impressive, sir.
I really don't want to do anything else. And not because I don't think I could, but because I genuinely don't want to. I'm happy with things exactly as they are.
Now, in this same vein, can you explain what the difference is between dream dreamers and dream havers?
Somebody did their homework. That's funny. Well, because I think that a lot of people, and I think it's societal, sometimes it's directly imprinted upon them from their parents, but societally, I think that most people, they really regard dreams as something that you simply think about. You don't have them. You just dream about them. And we can hear it in the language. I'll give you just a couple of examples of this. One of the things that crushes our ability to claim our dreams is we have these awful imprintings that have been laid upon us, such as, don't get your hopes up. Well, that would only be said by someone who expects to fail. There's nobody else on the planet who would say that unless underneath they expected to fail, and that's why you don't get your hopes up. Get ready for disappointment. That's what we're being coached in life. Get ready for disappointment. Under no circumstances should you get your hopes up, because it's probably not going to happen for you. Get ready to join the rest of us, buckle down, and expect to fail. And part of how we're going to help you handle failure is by never having you get your hopes up in the first place. Then you don't have to fall from a very high place. So keep your hopes really low. Basically crawl on the ground and expect nothing. That way, when you get nothing, you won't get bent out of shape about it, and you'll be fine like the rest of us. It is one of the worst pieces of coaching I have ever heard, and I've never met someone who wasn't exposed to it. Everybody heard, don't get your hopes up. There are a bunch of these that I teach in a list called the Not So Fine 9, which were the 9 biggest lies we were ever taught. Everyone, has heard them. And so we have to overcome those before we can ever do anything. So what I teach is dream claiming and or dream having. That there's a reason you're experiencing the dream in its dream form, so you're dreaming of it, you're visioning it. But it doesn't want to just pay you a visit so you can dream about it or fantasize about it. It's visiting you because it wants to experience itself. It wants to express itself through your life, and it's knocking on your soul's door, saying, I'm here. This is what I want you to experience. But we are taught you're probably not going to get it. We're also taught things like dreams are for other people. That is why people use the word pursue. It's because they don't expect to catch. Are you going to pursue your dreams? No, actually, I thought I'd go ahead and have them. You will blow people's minds when you say that. And I say it in every seminar I teach, specifically the actor ones. I said this a few years ago at a big one, about 250 actors. Auditorium is filled. And I said, raise your hand tonight if you are in Los Angeles currently and you are here to pursue your acting career. Could I see a show of hands? How many hands out of 250 do you think went up?
251.
You're right on. It's everybody in the room. So it's not a trick question. Everybody raised their hand. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you value right now before we even get this seminar underway. I'm going to give you the single biggest takeaway that will make the amount of money you spent to come see me tonight worth it. I said, I have been in Los Angeles for the vast majority of my adult life. I moved out here when I was 18. The reason it has gone so well is because even at 18, I did not move to Los Angeles to pursue an acting career. I moved here to have one, a very different mindset. Those are not the same thing vibrationally at all. They are hugely different. So someone who pursues on some level is someone who doesn't expect to catch. And that's why they don't use the word catch or have or claim. They expect to still be pursuing when it's all said and done. That's why they use pursuit. Pursuit is a word that weakens us. Yeah, I'm going to pursue that. Don't expect me to catch it. Don't expect me to actually experience it. But by God, I can sure feel good about myself pursuing it. And then 10 years later, you're going, you still pursuing your dream? And they're going, yep, still doing it, still pursuing it. Well, I don't know, but I'm kind of thinking having might be a lot more fun than pursuing. So it sounds like wordplay until you implement the shift. And when you implement the shift, you realize this is way more powerful than words. And so what I'm really teaching is the power of word usage and how when you change your vocabulary, you change your life and you get rid of all disempowering words. I don't even use the word audition. That was the first thing I started coaching actors about 34 years ago in my smaller groups in LA on audition mastery. Part of audition mastery includes not using the word audition because that connotes proving. You're trying to prove to someone what you can do. Your whole strategy is to go earn their good opinion of you. It's nonsense. And if you simply go in to celebrate who it is you are and to powerfully lift the words off of the page and present them as the truth of that character that you are playing and don't care what they do. Don't be invested in whether or not they hire you. Can you imagine if you were getting married this week, you yourself, Steve, if you were getting married and you had never crossed paths with your in-laws to be, I'm just making up a scenario here. And I said to you, so you've never crossed paths with your in-laws? And you said, no, but they're coming in town this week, weddings this weekend. And I said this, okay, so let me ask you a question. You guys are having dinner on Friday? Yes, we are. All right, well, regarding dinner, do you want to meet them or audition for them? I don't think you'd want to be auditioning for your in-laws.
That is a great example.
It's perfect because it really connects vibrationally that you're there to prove something. You're there to try to earn something. It would go so much better if you would just friggin' meet them. Just meet them. Let them meet you and you meet them and decisions are made about that encounter. But if you are going in auditioning for them right off the bat, you've given them the upper hand. You've accepted your role as an underling and you are subservient vibrationally from the get-go. They are not in the habit of hiring subservient-minded people. When they book you for a movie or, God, for a lead in a series, they want people who know how to powerfully grab the bull by the horns and lead the way. It's not about esteeming yourself to be better, esteeming yourself to be stronger or wiser, or you're the most important person in the room. Not at all. It's a recognition that I, too, belong here. Because you can't do a movie without actors, and the movie can't be done without a writer and a producer. And if I were to ask you right now, Steve, here's another good example. If I ask you, what is the most important part of a car? I'll guarantee you would tell me the engine, because that's what everybody says. The engine, like it's the biggest, most significant part. And while on one level I would agree with you that it is, I would also add But I don't know about you, I've never seen an engine go anywhere without its tires, ever. So it can sit there being the most important part of the car all it wants to. But it relies upon the wheels. It relies upon the transmission. It relies upon the gas. It relies upon so many things, and all parts of the machine are important in moving the machine forward. So I stress the actors' recognition of themselves as an important, a vital piece of the puzzle, and to participate in that vitality by not coming in as a friggin' underling, and never accept your position as an underling, but come into a room as someone who belongs there and someone who matters. And what I found that is people are very drawn to it. And for those who are alienated by your sense of power, those are not the people you want in your life anyway. So it is a self-healing device that anytime your bigness threatens somebody else, it's almost like life is self-pruning. It's always pruning away the pieces that don't belong. So that's kind of in a nutshell everything of kind of what the program is, and how really did I speak to what I mean by the difference between dream dreaming and dream having. I feel like I did.
You absolutely did, and thank you for that. That's really what I was going after.
I think most people are convinced that it's a good idea to have dreams, right? Just to have them. And I believe it's even more important to claim them. That's all.
Absolutely.
Not just sit around fantasizing about the life you might someday could have. And the more you utilize the word or look at the word pursuit, the more I have found that people love the teaching about it, and they start getting away from it. And if you think about it, if you needed a part from a hardware store, you wouldn't say, well, I'm going to go pursue that. You would just go, I'm going to go get it. There wouldn't be any pursuit. You say, Glenn, I'll get back to you in an hour. I'm going to go pursue driving somewhere. So I'm not one to use the word pursuit. I can't stand that word.
Well, that is a good word to throw out of your vocabulary, everybody listening. I do not like it as well. And it's the same if you're, let's just say, for example, when you were in high school and you saw Carolyn, you didn't say, I'm going to pursue her. You said, I'm going to go get her.
Yeah, I just said, I want to know this person. So I did something about it. It wasn't about pursuing her. I actually didn't pursue her. I just got to know her.
There you go.
And then two people decided, you know what are you doing for the next 60 years of your life? You want to spend time living and learning together? You want to not be alone when you face speed bumps?
What did she say? Just kidding.
You want to have a kid or two and we'll show up as a family? And it was like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey, streetwalkers. Well, you're not literally streetwalkers, but now that I've got your attention, I am Stephen O'Reilly, and I have a podcast called the Bar Star Podcast. And since you're listening to the Fascination Street podcast, I think you should check out my show. It's just as interesting without all the famous people, because Steve has connections that I just do not have. But if you dig podcasts about music, working musicians, and other random shit that I decided to talk about, based around music, of course, because that's what I do. I'm a working musician for the past 30 years, then you need to check out the Bar Star Podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast, on any platform, and make sure you check out barstarpodcast.com. Now back to the one and only Steve Owens and whatever the hell he was talking about.
Again, I can't get over how long you guys have been married. That is fantastic. And you guys work together, which that makes it even more difficult to stay together. You guys are awesome. Y'all are clearly meant for each other.
Well, we really only recently began to work together. We didn't work together until 4 years ago. And it's because when Carolyn's mother was ill, she quit her job. And then even though they kept offering it back to her in Los Angeles, she was enjoying being here. And I had opened the school, and she just said, why don't we just unite our energies and I'll handle all of the bookkeeping. And there's a lot of it. There's a lot to doing all the invoicing and scheduling and everything. And I didn't want to do that. That's not my cup of tea. I wanted to only teach. So what a great match. I'll teach the school and you run the school. You run all the business side of it. And that is her preferred territory. It would be a nightmare to her to think in terms of her doing what I do. And it would be a nightmare to me to think in terms of doing what she does. So it's really quite perfect. And her work is here from the home, and mine is out there at the physical site. So we don't even work together. Our energies are combined, but we physically are not in the same space, even though we're running the same company. So we have our we have our space, and then we have our time together, and I travel a lot, so we're certainly not sewn together at the hip. We live our individual lives and we live our collective life. It makes for a perfect balance, frankly.
It sounds like it's working really, really well. Now, Glenn, I have kept you forever. I do appreciate your time. And before we head out, I want to ask you if you will tell a story, and I'll let you pick the story.
Oh, God, I've already told so many.
Oh, yeah, but these are two of my favorites. So if you would either tell your story of the first day of shooting for Star Trek Generations, or the story of why you think Martin Sheen is the greatest.
Okay, let me ask you this. What if I tell you a story that is neither one of those?
A dealer's choice.
Would you be okay with that?
Hit me with a great story that I haven't heard. I can't wait.
Because I've got a story that is the single greatest crowd pleaser. And I've got easily 10 stories that I can revert to at any time in the middle of a presentation. I just did a big one in Wichita Falls the other night. And I told this story, and I tell it at every seminar, and people roll. So I want to tell you this. The Martin Sheen story is also a great story, by the way. It was that Martin thing was simply that he showed amazing compassion and concern to my dying stepfather, Martin Morshower, who raised me. And I was doing a birthday video for my father. And I wanted Martin in it because it was all celebrities. And Martin said, "Of course I will, Glenn. You know, I'd love to do that." And then I wasn't able to get him the entire day. And it was a long day that day. We started work at 6:30 in the morning, and they signed Martin out at 8 p.m. So he had been there for almost 14 hours. And they kept me there another hour. And when I left, I was disappointed, but I knew we just couldn't do it. We could not do it. We were not working at the same time. Martin would be in front of camera when I wasn't, and I would be when he wasn't, or we would both be on camera at the same time. So we just didn't have the opportunity, but I had a number of other celebrities in it, so it wasn't a big deal. But I was just sad because I knew Martin wanted to be in it, and I knew how much my dad would love it because he was a huge West Wing fan. So here it's a full hour later, and I sign out, and I walk outside, and Martin is sitting there in his truck. And he looks at me, and he goes, "Hey, Glenn, are we going to shoot this thing or what?" And I couldn't believe it. I actually started crying. I couldn't believe it. He had waited after 14 hours, and all he said was this. I said, "I can't believe that you waited here." He said, "Buddy, I gave you my word. And a man's word is everything. A man's word is his worth." And I just went, wow, you are a golden human being. Here's the Gil story. So the story is that I checked into a hotel in Salt Lake City in the fall of 2000. And I went into my room and I had a roommate. I didn't realize, but the roommate was a goldfish. And I thought, this is cool. I travel all over the world. I've never once been in a hotel that had a goldfish. So this is kind of interesting. And I didn't have anywhere to be, didn't know anybody in Salt Lake. And I didn't have to be to my wardrobe fitting until late the next morning. So I thought, I'm going to spend a little time observing this fish. And I spent probably 20 to 30 minutes just looking at him do his thing, which was to swim around in a circular pattern in this bowl that was about a 6-inch wide bowl. His entire world, water, gravel, a little castle in the middle, and a small amount of fish food on the top, and the glass, the bowl itself. That was his world. I, on the other hand, had woken up in my home in North Hollywood, California, got into a limousine, was taken to an airport where I entered a metallic tube that traveled 500 miles per hour, which deposited my butt in Salt Lake City, where another limo picked me up, took me to a hotel. I signed in, checked in, got into an elevator, and went up to room 923. All of that had happened in one day for me. Meanwhile, this goldfish was just going around in circles. And I thought, God, our lives are so vastly different. But I want to check you out. So I did. And that lasted, as I said, 20 to 30 minutes, then I went to bed. And at the end of my day, the next day, I was actually excited to come back and see my buddy, my new roommate. And there he was, still doing his circles. And I said, you know what, I'm going to call you Gil, if that's okay with you. It was good enough for Bill Murray. That's what Bill called his fish in the movie What About Bob? And I said it out loud, and I'm okay if that makes me sound like a weirdo. But I did. I said, can I call you Gil? I'm Glenn. I'm talking out loud. There are no other witnesses. There's nobody in the room, and I'm talking to a friggin' goldfish. So I said, I'm Glenn, and if I can call you Gil. He seemed to offer no objection. So I said, Gil, I'm going to give you a very different experience as a result of being your roommate. And that experience is going to begin right now. And I picked up the bowl, and I took him into the bathroom, where I proceeded to fill the bathtub. And I kept dipping into Gil's bowl and dipping into the bathtub and back to Gil's bowl and back to the bathtub and making sure that it was the exact same temperature because I didn't want him to be overheated or too cold, made sure they were identical. And then I reached in when the bathtub was full. I reached in with my hands and grabbed Gil and placed him into the center of the tub. What do you think he did?
I'm going to guess he swam in bigger circles.
Here's what he did. He sat perfectly still. Now, mind you, it's still a great story, even over the phone. But it is a phenomenal story to see it told live because I get to act it out. And it's huge. But you'll still feel the effect over the phone. So what he did is he sat perfectly still. He didn't do anything for about 30 seconds. And then movement began. And what he did is he swam in his familiar 6-inch patterning.
You're kidding.
Oh my, I'm not kidding. And I went, oh my God. I really had a profound reaction to this. I went, God, I need the world here to watch this. This is incredible that despite the change, despite the enormity of his new arena in which to swim, he is swimming those circles out of habit. And I thought, boy, does that ever speak to humankind. That people are very seldom living their lives at choice. They are living them by rote and out of habit. So he kept in that pattern, and he kept it up for a couple of minutes as though the glass were still around him. We call this conditioning in psychology. So now he's doing it, and I begin to reach my hand in, and I scoot him, just gently scooching him over and thus widening his circle. And he's still swimming in a circle, but the circle is being made bigger by my gentle nudge. And I kept nudging until he struck the edge. And when he hit the edge where the porcelain is there, I mean, it's white. So it's very different than what he knew. The only hard edge he'd ever experienced was see-through, was glass. So this is different. And I thought, you know what? I think I've probably expanded his world enough for one session. Let's call it good. That whole experience, maybe he was in the tub 5 to 6 minutes. And then I put him back in his water because I don't know what chemicals are in it. But I figure if I expose him to bath water and it's only for a few minutes at a time, it's certainly not going to hurt him. And then Gil was fine. I got him back in his bowl and he resumed his normal circles, and I put him back on the cabinet or on the chest of drawers there in the hotel room, and I went to bed. Let me speed the story along by saying that I did this every single night. I took him there every night to that bathtub. And on the fourth night, when I placed him in the water, he went straight to the edge on his own. No more nudging needed. He had shattered the boundaries and began swimming the perimeter of the tub. I got so excited that I ripped off my clothes and got into the tub with him. Now, hey, it's fair. It's fair. The fish is nude. It's okay if I'm nude as well.
Sure, it's not creepy at all.
And so the fish is now swimming around me, and in the same way he used to swim around, and this is the part that over the phone is not nearly as good as the visual, when he used to swim around his own bowl, each trip was so boring because he would swim a circle, and then it was like, oh, look, a castle. Here goes another loop. Oh, look, a castle. And when I tell this story live on stage, I'm doing Gil's swim around in a circle, and each time going, oh, look, a castle. So his world never changes. Well, now I had become Gil's new human castle, and he's now circling me instead of the one in the bowl. And that is how we swam together the remaining 5 nights of my trip. I was there 9 nights. And the last 5, I went swimming with Gil in the tub every night. Now it's the end of my trip, and it's checkout time. Checkout time is 11 a.m., and at 10 o'clock in the morning, I look over at Gil and I become sad. And this is not said for the sake of the story. I'm talking about legitimately sad. And here's why I'm sad. 1, I'm leaving my buddy. But the even greater sadness was because of this. And again, I cannot say this enough, Steve. This is not said to draw out a story or to produce an effect. It's said because it's how I actually felt on that day. I began crying because I'm a sensitive individual, because I'm connected with things like worms in the driveway of a gas station. And I obviously have developed feelings for my friend Gil because here's why I'm sad. I realize that there is no chance in the world that he will ever have another roommate like me. And because of it, it means he's going to be relegated to his bowl. I'll guarantee you two things. Nobody ever took him swimming before, and no one will ever take him swimming again. The fact that no one did it before is not an issue because Gil didn't know any better. Now it's an issue. And it's an issue because I have transformed him to swim big and play bigger. I've changed his life, which now makes it my responsibility to feel about what it means to return him to the original bowl. And I'm really upset about it because I realize he's going to be grounded here in this small bowl, living in regret of what he knows is possible. And he can't do anything about it because they need our help. That's why being human is so evolved. Gil can't, of his own volition, just go walk over or crawl across the floor and fill up and turn the handles and fill up the tub and jump in it. So he's done. All of his swimming days are over with in a large arena. And there I am emotional. So I look at him and I go, you want to go one more time? I know it's unusual to do it in the day. We always swim together at night, but I got to swim with you at least once more. And in the tub, I began crying, really crying. I was so upset because he was circling me like two playmates, having a blast. And it was during that time that it so moved my heart that it explains why 30 minutes later, I was down in the lobby with my luggage in one hand and Gil in the other. And I said to the person when I checked out, I know a lot of people steal your towels. And she started laughing. I'd gotten nowhere. And I said, but I'm going to take your goldfish. And she looked and I said, I'm not going to steal it though. I want to pay for it. I want to pay for this bowl. I want to pay for gravel. And if you could float me some fish food, charge me for that too. And she goes, oh my gosh. And I said, I've nicknamed him Gil. And Gil and I have been up in room 923 bonding. And she said, bonding? That's beautiful. And I said, well, what I mean by bonding is swimming together in the bathtub. And we've done it every night. And she looked at me and she let out this little sound that went like this. It was like the sound of her tongue popping. She goes, oh. She goes, that is one of the sweetest things I've ever heard. So you want to leave with this goldfish because you connected with it and you actually, Glenn, that's beautiful and it's crazy, but I love it. You've been swimming with the fish in the tub. I said, I have. I'm not joking. And he's my buddy. And I know no other future roommate's going to take him swimming, and I can't bear to leave him. And she said, well, for starters, honestly, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. It's also the weirdest thing I've ever heard here at the hotel, and there is not a chance that I would charge you for any of it. Please, thank you for touching my heart. And they didn't charge me a dime. And we took Gil, and I found an acting school there in Salt Lake City, and actually they had an aquarium at that school, and we went and bought an even bigger one, and Gil's new home was 1 full foot larger than the very bathtub in which he had trained. And then we went and got him a bunch of friends, and we changed his life. And Gil became the motto for my teaching. And this is what it means to show up and make the entire world your campsite. I made that hotel room my campsite, and I saw it as my responsibility to improve and enhance Gil's experience of being a fish. What does it mean? Do you know that I get bombarded with emails annually regarding that story? And they tell me that they want to treat all people they meet just like you treated Gil. I hear about it constantly. It's one of my favorite stories, and it's 100% true. So it isn't the silliness that is the part we want to remember. What we want to remember is the heart that was up underneath every moment of that decision to enhance his life and to swim together and to play and to joke and be taking notes, because I knew when I saw him circling, I knew I would someday tell that story to big, big audiences. And without exception, I'll guarantee you I have voiced that story to several thousand people live, several thousand, and that they in turn have told it to others. So the Gil story has certainly been in circulation and has been told to millions of people now. All true.
Well, that is a beautiful story and a great one to go out on. Thank you for sharing that one.
You bet. And I know we both got to get on with our day, but it was a pleasure spending time with you, and my love to your sister.
Glenn, before you go, will you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
The best bet is to reach me via Facebook. Believe it or not, that's really kind of the only way I make myself available. I know there are a lot of other social media avenues, and I don't pay attention to any of them. So just reach out to me on Facebook. If you want to send me a private message and identify who you are and you want to find out about classes, I'm happy to give out that information. That's the best bet. But I don't even have I think I have an Instagram account, but I think it's because someone started one up for me, but I don't ever put any pictures on it. So frankly, I'm too busy for it.
Well, it sounds like you really are. Glenn Morshower, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us on Fascination Street and let us all get to know you a little bit better. I really, really appreciate your time and these wonderful, inspiring stories. Thank you so much, Glenn.
It's my extreme pleasure, Steve. Be well. Enjoy your day, brother. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, sir. Good night and good luck.
You bet. Night-night.
Bye. Hey guys, this is Steve Owens from Fascination Street Podcast here with a very important message. I'm awesome. I bet you thought I was going to say something else, but nope. What's important here is that I am awesome. I started this show because I truly believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear those stories. In the short time I've been doing this show, I've interviewed actors, directors, writers, inventors, podcasters, musicians, pro athletes, Olympic athletes, actual war heroes, even a Bond girl and a luthier, whatever the hell that is, and of course, regular people. From people who wanted to be stars but never gave it a real try, to big company CEOs and people who got to meet their favorite president. I love getting to meet and speak with people who have a story to tell. I feel like everyone does, and it's my job to get them to tell it. You never know who my next guest will be. An Academy Award-winning actor, a platinum-selling musician, or your own mother-in-law. But one thing is for certain, you will be fascinated by their story. So come take a walk with me down Fascination Street. You can find Fascination Street Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, FascinationStreetPod.com. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.